You're listening to NT Paranormal After Dark. Nothing normal about it.
What is up, jerkwads? What? Okay, there we go.
What was that?
Now it's coming up. I don't know. After trying to teach you stuff all day, I screwed it up. Yeah, screwed up my whole shtick. So basically, we've had an interesting week. You know, playing with our new doll toy and putting out some new ads and stuff, and we have been the subject of some trolling, or what I kind of consider trolling. And you know, it was brought, like, a good phrase was brought up in one of those conversations, like, there's a fine line between skepticism and cynicism. And I actually took a step back and I thought about it. I was like, holy shit, like, you know, I went from being a total believer to pretty skeptic to have I accidentally crossed that line into cynicism myself. And I think I have it at certain points. And so I was kind of going back through some of my posts where I've been arguing with other groups and stuff before, trying to figure out if I'm kind of guilty of the same thing. And I don't think I'm guilty of trolling anybody, but I've definitely
crossed the line a little bit.
Well, and I mean, we have definitely not made friends in this field.
Oh, no, of course not.
Like,
well, we've made some.
We've made some, but we've definitely made enemies out of some other groups. And I mean, but that started really early on when we first went public in 2013 with what we were doing. This is a little bit before you, but I mean, you knew us, in so you know what I'm talking about. But when the Lethbridge team, and I say the Lethbridge team, it wasn't the team that did it. It was just the
one dude,
the douchebag that ran it at the time, who, you know, eventually later it came out that the guy was basically a total fraud and a jerk.
Not just a fraud, yeah, but he had sent, like, threats to the son of a local politician. He had been charging people to get demons out of their houses.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And he had the nerve to go after Sarah, because Sarah was being skeptical on board, because even before we were like a science-based group, before we had like set like that as our goal, is that we were going to study it this way, we were skeptical. Like, we were looking for truth. You know, we may have fell into a lot of those older tropes or whatever, you know, of like, oh, okay, there were EMFs over here, and you know, we were really looking at orbs and things like that. And you know, we didn't know a whole lot about what we were doing, but we were all educated people and we had common sense, and we were putting our stuff online. So even though we weren't doing things to the level that we were doing it now, we were still skeptical. In the first time we ran into that is, you know, you were on one of those paranormal board. I can't remember what you were on.
I was on an agnostic atheist forum.
Right, and I don't think you were there like promoting our paranormal stuff or whatever, but somehow it came up.
I was someone had posted about can you be an atheist and still believe in the paranormal?
Right. Okay. Yeah, and that was the question.
Yeah, and I was just talking about it with some people.
Right, there were like 3 or 4 people there, and it was a discussion at that point, and it was an interesting discussion. Like there were points to both side of it, whether you could or couldn't. And that dude, he came on and he just like flamed you.
Well, first off, he flamed everyone else. He was like,
but he wasn't even attacking you for being atheist. He was attacking you for being skeptical.
He was also an atheist.
Right.
But he was flaming everyone on there for being closed-minded. Of course, basically his line was, of course the paranormal is real. You're an idiot if you don't believe in ghosts.
Right.
First off, what's his whole trope? And I was like, you know, I'm a paranormal investigator, and I don't say that a lot on these boards because people do tend to flame you. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being skeptical. And that's when he lost his absolute mind. Skeptical,
critical. These are both things I feel like if you're going to be an investigator, you have to do that. And there's a lot of people that, you know, when we're doing the live appearances, they come up to the booth and they come talk to us, and it's usually like the girlfriend's like, oh dude, I'm super into this, and the boyfriend rolls their eyes, and he's like, oh, I guess you guys believe in ghosts or whatever. And you know, that's usually, I'll be standing there and I go, like, actually no.
I always like the look on their face when they say that, and one of us is like, no, we don't believe in ghosts.
No, not really. And they're like, I will click for more information, you know. And you'll have some of them that are really into like science or whatever. And usually I'll field those because I'm the technical guy, and they're like, holy shit, these people aren't just like nutbags using their equipment wrong or whatever, and we'll kind of win them over. Some of them are just, like empaths or whatever, and if they talk to me first, they'll be like, oh, well, they don't believe in that anyway, but then they'll talk to one of you guys.
Yeah, we don't let you talk to the subjects.
Right.
Yeah.
There's different approaches that each of us in our group kind of take to it, but we are all skeptical. And what I'm finding is people run across our videos or our experiments and stuff online, and recently it's been the thing with the haunted doll. I'm doing these tests on the haunted doll, and they all say the same stupid thing. They stop in there and they're like, what am I looking at? Well, what the F do you think you're looking at? It's just a doll sitting there.
I usually don't respond to trolls like at all, but I actually yelled at that one lady, and I feel pretty bad for it. But she did the one thing that enraged me.
Yeah, Miss Religion. Yeah, there's only one true God, and this is ridiculous. Blah blah blah. Well, then why are you sitting here watching it? Like, what was her goal
I don't know.
at the
I was
end
just
of
like,
it?
look, lady, I don't believe in your God. F off.
But I had the one guy that was on that feed, and he's like, "This is completely boring. Nothing's happening." And it's like, "Oh, you're watching a video of a doll just sitting here. Which one of us has less of a life? Me for just setting a camera on it and
you
like
for watching it.
Yeah. Like I'm in the living room eating Cheetos, and
Plus, if that's something you're into, like the people that are actually watching it, how is that not having a life? That's engaging in a hobby you enjoy.
Yeah.
And this same person that's insulting them probably plays fantasy football or video games. Or watches movies or TV shows.
Emilio says he missed it. Please explain what happened. He's talking about because he was on that feed initially. Because he thanks Emilio for bringing that up. He was helping. We had like 6 or 7 people that just were steady watching that feed for like 3 days. Like I saw so many posts. It's like I need to go to bed, but I'm just sitting here watching this doll. And in some
I don't even think they knew why they were watching.
I don't know either. But they were like doing it in shifts, and I think Emilio watched a little bit in the beginning, and then he came back, and I had already kicked her off the board. And here's the deal: it pissed me off bad enough. I never kick anybody. I just let them run their mouth, and I'll ignore them. And I'll most of the time those people filter themselves out because they're asshats. But this one was particularly nasty.
Because I was formerly religious too, is the people that do this on these groups, it flicks some button in my brain that makes me angry. But she had gone on there and she said this is stupid. I don't know why any of y'all are wasting your time. If you believe in this, you're an idiot. And for some reason she felt the need to add there's only one true God. Like just out of nowhere. It had nothing to do with anything. So I just responded.
But she was also harassing the other people on the board. It was where I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and block her. Like if they're just talking trash to me or whatever, I'll usually
accept it.
I'll usually engage with them.
I wasn't running. I mean, all I was doing was running EVP. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the other people who were watching, which isn't acceptable for us to just let someone come into our group and attack people.
Yeah, and she was just using it as a platform to basically be a C word.
She came out and said that she was a druid.
Yeah.
Which is a pagan religion.
Well, and somebody they're like, what do you mean by druid or something? And it was like, it just went off the walls, and you can tell it was just somebody that was in there jacking with people. And I want to say that might have been Halloween. I think it was Halloween night, actually. Or it was the night after. It was the night after Halloween night.
See, I know it wasn't Halloween because I spent that night, scaring the crap out of my son with the new It movie.
Right.
So.
Well, I had streamed. I had started doing that stream on Halloween night, I think, and people were watching that, which I thought was hilarious because it's just a static image of a doll, and I had some equipment set up, and people were watching that instead of like Halloween or like a literal scary movie.
It's funny that you think that's weird, but you spend so much of your time watching freaking Paranormal Adventures.
But I mean, they're like doing stuff like it has entertainment value. I actually had just a static camera set up, and everybody was coming in. They're like, well,
I find it equally odd.
Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do that. And even Emilio jumped in at one time and was like, hey, look, that's not the experiment he's running right now. That's a full, because he's like, can you put it in color, please? I'm like, it's a full spectrum camera. It's completely dark in there. We're running this particular experiment. I'm not opposed to doing it in regular light.
I like Amelia. He said, "There's only one God, but I'm a druid." Really? Yeah, that's what she said, and everyone on the thread was like, "Really?"
Kenny says skepticism is just having doubt and wanting to get to the core truth of a claim. Cynicism is outright dismissing without much more reason other than an emotional response. And he's absolutely correct. I think that's what happens a lot because they see this like outer M&M crunchy shell package and they're not really interested if it's chocolate or fruit flavor inside. They don't care for an M&M or a Skittles under the candy. And so they see paranormal investigation or they see that and
we get written off.
Right. And they're like, oh, it's just another group of ghost hunters. But like I said, like the people that meet us in person, when they come up and they actually engage and they talk to us, almost instantly those people get like a completely different idea of what's going on. And I really like that. But some of these people we were talking to online, even though I wasn't getting, because we put a new video ad like out because I was trying to get more hits on the website. That's what you do. And Facebook has got a new thing that if there's too much text in it, it won't run it because it says people don't like ads with text in it. It wants voice or whatever.
You don't get to tell me what to do, Facebook.
Well, it pissed me off because I was getting plenty of hits with the other one, and I didn't want to do some cheesy, stupid narration over it, so I just read off the paragraph from our About page in the creepy movie guy voice that I do for the videos or whatever, and, well, it got a lot of hits. It worked. But there was somebody that was on there. He's like, well, what do you mean by the scientific method? And it's like, I
mean the scientific method.
We call him Captain Air Quotes. And I'm like, what the F do you think we mean by scientific method? We mean scientific method. And he's like, well, I think you're just tech savvy. Yes, but we also adhere to the scientific method. Like, I've given lectures on this at a school.
I was so aggravated because that's when my phone was broken. I couldn't text because I wanted to say, here's what we mean by the scientific method. We come up with a hypothesis and then we test it. The scientific freaking method.
Yeah, and so, like, I spent like 2 or 3 posts explaining to him what the scientific method was, but he obviously already knew what the scientific method was, so I was like, what's your point? Like, what are you trying to get out of me here? And he was trying to trip me up and saying, well, we do this experiment or whatever. But the thing was, I said, we're using stiffer controls than what other groups use. It's not 100% accurate, but part of the scientific method is failing and fixing the failures until you create a good experiment. It's a circular process. No, we don't have anything that is airtight as a lab condition for the things that we do in the field. But we do go back and fill those gaps. Like, our experiments have become tighter and more controlled than any other group's experiments, like with our sound experiments. The way we do sound isolation, frequency isolation, we try to replicate things. The way we use different types of recorders in different rooms under different circumstances. The way we do mono wavelength photography to debunk freaking dust and all that, and he was like, well, yeah, I'm sure MIT, just trying to sound smart, and I guess the smartest...
He was just being a dick.
Well, I'm sure the smartest school he could think of in his head was MIT, and I'm like, well, you're kind of an idiot because that's a little far for us to drive to go collaborate with, and we actually do collaborate with the tech department at UTA.
Yeah, why would I go all the way to Boston when we got plenty of good schools in the area?
We have some of the best technical schools in the country here in Texas, like in our backyard. And the thing is when it comes to the technical things, yes, I am tech savvy, but I am also very familiar with science and things I don't know. The internet's a thing now. Like, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree in engineering to understand engineering. Anybody can learn anything that they want to learn, as long as they're checking their sources and everything.
I was looking at Emilio's. He said in this field, the scientific method could only be implemented to a certain point. We don't investigate in a sanitized lab. We can only do so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right. Like,
I can't read what Kenny said. I can't, like, on my
in
phone. It's
what would be
blurry.
considered a skeptical... I'm what would be considered a skeptical investigator. I write for the Center of Inquiry and Skeptical Inquirer magazine. When I start asking questions of extraordinary claims to better understand the claim's evidence, I'm often called a cynic or worse. And that's kind of what happens.
I hate the or worse. Yeah.
Or, yeah, like, just you get called a complete idiot. And, I mean, Emilio is absolutely right. There is no way you can strictly adhere to the scientific method in the field, especially in paranormal investigation. Paranormal exists outside of the normal, out of what science can actually prove. So you have to find a happy medium. But the thing is you go out and you collect data, and when you get that anomalous data, you don't immediately just assume it's a ghost. What you do is you think of all the possibilities and all the holes... Yeah, all the holes in your experiment that could be contaminants, and then you plug as many of those holes as you possibly can. And that's we're one of the groups that's never going to say it's a ghost, because that could be one of the possibilities for something we get. Could be a ghost. Okay, now that that's off the table, it could be a ghost, even though most of us don't believe in ghosts. It could be these two other things, but we can't prove it's those two other things. So it's either a ghost or it's one of these two other things, but we've got it narrowed down that far. And the thing about, we can't do investigations in a lab setting, but the thing is we can take that data that we get in the field and compare it to that same test in a lab setting to see what can go is a comparative. And that is the control, is we do those same tests in a clean, sterile environment, a non-haunted, like in a lab, we know nobody's talking, or in a sound room or something like that, and we see what we get there. If we get those same kind of anomalies in that sterile environment, and then we take it to a non-sterile environment, and then we're starting to get something, you have something to compare that data to, and it at least gives you a starting place. Hey, Taryn, how's it going?
She commented that she cut out. And she wanted to know if it was us or her. I responded, I don't think we cut out.
No, it's not us. We're still alive with 9 beers. You don't need a sanitized lab in order to follow the scientific method. Despite many charts, there is not only one way to do the scientific method. That's true. It's circular. Controlled experiments are something I found most groups don't understand. You can implement controls without a lab, simple controls. And that is absolutely true, but it also depends what you're testing. Like, it doesn't have to be completely sterile. And the main example would be when we were doing the doll. So I had an EMF detector out. I had audio equipment out, all this stuff, right? But that was for the viewers. The actual test, the experiment I was doing that we were worried about was we were investigating claims that the doll moved on its own. All I need for that is an effing camera. Stick a camera on it, see if it moves on its own. And I was doing it in IR light, because I didn't want that full spectrum of light on it, because it can cause the illusion of movement if you stare at it long enough. That eliminated some of the shadows and stuff like that. Also, that's just the camera that I have that happens to live stream, and I wanted to do it as a live stream. It's not that big of a deal. But that was the experiment. All that other crap, all of that was just to make it a little bit more entertaining for the viewers, and we got a pretty cool EVP off of that doll. Now, I am not saying that EVP was paranormal. No. It could have been contamination from outside. It could have been contamination from me.
It could have been the ghost that lives in your bathroom.
It could have been the ghost that lives in the bathroom. It might not have been Debbie the doll. It could have been any of those things. Now, I can logically rule out a lot of that stuff because I know what was going on at the time. It probably is a legit EVP, but it goes back to what can you prove, what can you say and what can you prove? I can't prove it. I only had one recorder on it. It's not a 100% controlled environment. So I'm not going to submit that, to the freaking and try to get a Nobel Prize out of it. I'm like, no, it could be something else. And if somebody ever proved somehow, oh no, that was my kid outside acting like a heathen during Halloween, at that exact same moment, then I would be like, oh, well, there you go. I'm not totally surprised by that, but I didn't say it had to be a ghost. I said it was just a really interesting recording at the time. And they were just blasting me on it. They were like, oh, you know, why are you using UV light? And that EMF detector could be broken. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to watch a doll and have fun on Halloween. Chill the fuck out.
I like Amelia. In this field, a sterile lab would be saged, salted, and blessed. How do you get evidence then?
Taryn wants to know, did the doll move? The doll never
did not
moved.
see the doll
It
move.
never moved on camera. I never saw it move. On the second night, I woke up with scratches down my back, and it's debatable on whether my cats did it. My cats didn't do it. I think if anything,
I think you did it in your sleep.
I can't reach that far.
Oh, that is such a bull. We prove that you can reach that
No,
far.
I really can't reach that. I can't reach
Okay.
that way. I can't reach that way.
He can totally reach that far, and you've gotten a massage.
If I did it, it wasn't with my nails. I think it either happened during my massage, because my back was screwed up, and I went to go get my back worked on. Either she scratched me and didn't want to say anything because she thought I'd be mad, and I didn't notice that it was deep enough to make me bleed, or I caught it on something without realizing it. But it definitely wasn't my cats. My cats never clawed my back, and it goes down pretty far. But I still attribute it to Debbie the doll because I think it's a better story. But no, I never saw her move around, anything. The only thing we got off of the doll was the EVP. They used IR floodlights and removed IR filter from cell phone cameras for live streams. It's all modified equipment. Yeah, and we do that because a lot of we get flamed a lot because we do the same investigation crap that the big shows kind of do for entertainment value, where where they do it in the IR light or whatever. And we started doing that because in the very, very beginning, we were like, okay, maybe more stuff happens at night. But then we kept doing it because as we refine our stuff, we do investigate during the daytime a lot. Like when we're doing our walkthroughs and stuff, we have a lot of evidence that we've gathered with the lights on.
See, most of our photo evidence has been gotten with the lights on.
Yeah, all our really credible stuff that we got is always just during the day with the lights on. Y'all have to excuse Sarah. She's in the middle of a flare.
No, and I'm also having some sort of allergy problems. My eyes are really
She's not
itchy.
asleep. She's listening. I wanted to point it out because you're on camera as well.
Oh,
She's
sorry.
I'm trying
not
as
to
quietly as
I'm
possible.
trying not to rub
No, you're
my
fine.
eyes.
I know I'm trying to do it as quiet as I can, but
Good
it's just so
God.
loud.
But yeah, and so later on when we started changing, we do stuff during the day, and it's in our videos, and we do walkthroughs and baselines, and we take photographs, and that's actually when we capture the majority of our evidence. But we still do stuff at night, and we have different reasons than the shows do it. For one, we all have day jobs. Most of us have day jobs. The second thing is, that's the busiest time of traffic. We're not going to get around the sound contamination thing if we're trying to do it during business hours. There's people moving around, there's more traffic, things like that. So it's helpful with that. The third thing is, we have control over the lighting at night because we do different experiments with the lights. We do full spectrum, we do IR, we do UV, we also do singular wavelengths of light when we do that. And we can't control that during the day because you have this constant source of light and heat constantly fluctuating. So it's easier to control those things at night. And it raises entertainment value because at the end of the day, the stuff we're posting online, if it's not interesting, people don't want to watch it. If they don't want to watch it, they're not going to learn anything from it. And so we have to strike a balance. And I think that's where some of the more famous, the popular ghost groups, they get hung up because people realize they have to get ratings. So why are they...
Yeah.
And, for a long time, I was like, oh, that crap's fake. And then I've kind of come around to a happy medium where I feel like it's not necessarily fake. They're just playing it up. They're making it more than what it is. And I understand it because I never would have found it interesting had they not done that. And so I see it from that perspective, and I've stopped being angry about that and got to a point where I wanted to learn from it a little bit. but try to make a more honest version of that. And so, but that's one of the things that, like, a lot of trolls, they want to come up and blast us. Well, why are you doing it in IR light? Why do ghosts only come out at night? No, I mean, technically, we don't even think they come out at all. So,
Catherine says I should use Texas raw honey for my eyes. In my eyes? I need to put honey in my eyes?
I think she was talking about.
I know, for the allergies. I got it. I just, that was my first thought was,
I dropped some honey.
That sounds awful.
if I can put lotion on my tattoo, I can touch my back. No, the scratches went like all the way down and in one long motion, right? So I can touch all the parts.
I still maintain he could have done it.
Y'all are
Point of the
assholes.
matter
Y'all are
being-
trolls. Bunch of cynics. Stop turning off the lights. No ratings, no next season, and that's absolutely true. And to go back what he was talking about, just being skeptical, he gets told he's being a cynic, and I really feel for him, because I write a lot of art. Write a ton of articles for Paranormal Hauntings magazine and our own website and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and Lord, don't tell people their phone apps don't.
Oh my God, yeah, and that's the one. That's one where I got just blasted, but that wasn't trolls. That was the companies.
That was angry people that were going to lose money.
Right, and they did. I think I was hurting them in their wallet by exposing the fact that, hey, there's nothing in your phone that can technically do the things that you're claiming it can do. And that's why they were made. That's why they have that little disclaimer on the bottom of those apps that, hey, it's for entertainment value only.
Yeah.
But yet they were still arguing with me on how real it was, and the ghost has just got to get more acclimated to using your phone. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You're trying to tell me that it's detecting EMF with an accelerometer. Like, if anything, it's creating its own EMF. I'm getting off track on that. But yeah, it's that sort of thing. But I hate the idea that you can't be skeptical and open-minded, which is kind of what I took the scenic route to get here. But there's a difference between being blindly open-minded and just believing everything that's put in front of you, and being skeptical and not believing anything and being like open-minded and skeptical. Like
I think if you're so skeptical you don't believe anything, you've crossed back over into being
a flat earther.
Yeah.
That's where you end up. So you have to, if you have people that just believe everything blindly, right? Then every time the garage door opens and someone's coming in, I think a fucking ghost did it, right? But if I'm so skeptical, I don't believe anything I've been told ever, then I think the earth is flat because, science is lying to me,
The moon isn't real.
Right. But there's a middle ground. Station. You have to be skeptical of any information that you're given to the point of you want to apply logic to it, research, and you want to critically think about it, but you can't be so skeptical to the point that you can't accept new information when it is plausibly brought in front of you. And I think that's one of the things that our group brings to the field of paranormal is like, because we're skeptical, we're like, okay, if anybody else has got an EVP, any other group brings us an EVP, what do we say?
Lots of stuff.
We can't say one way or the other because we weren't there.
Yeah, we weren't there to do it. We don't know what kind of controls they used. We don't know how it was captured, what kind of equipment they use. It could legitimately be paranormal because we've got some interesting stuff ourselves. But having said that, we are open-minded to the idea that it could happen. So what our thought process is, let's apply certain controls to it. Let's isolate a recorder in a soundproof environment so we know we're not contaminating it. Let's put a Faraday cage around it so we know it's not RF interference. Let's ground it so that we know that the Faraday cage is working. Let's use a control recorder on the outside, see if it's captured on both of them. Let's use open tune crystal diode. Let's go ahead and use some of these methods that other people are using, but let's add a controlled version of it and see if we still get something in that static environment and compare it. And in those comparisons, we still find stuff. So we were open-minded enough to try it and see what happened, but we were skeptical enough to say what you're doing isn't good enough as it is, but we weren't nasty about it. And I think that's the problem with some of the other groups that come up to us, is they're nasty about it. They're like, well, since it's your evidence, I don't like it. I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that you're poking holes in the way we do stuff. And they get defensive and they get territorial and we get attacked. Ultimately, every group that's come up to us, they're friends at first. They're like, oh yeah, we really like what you're doing. You got some cool new toys I haven't seen before.
It's the most backstabby group I've met since junior high girls.
Yeah, it's so nuts. Like these people are like gangs, and the whole time we're like just trying to network with these people and like share information.
We're trying to work together with everybody, and we're working toward the same goal.
Well, they show us evidence, and we try to say like, why don't you try to? That's awesome. Why don't you try doing it this way? Along with what you're doing, to see if you get the same result. And they get mad because then they don't a lot of times, and then they blame us. I mean, they're full of crap. I know a local group that uses the stupid flashlight method, and I've told them over and over, and I've preached about that from the mountains forever. And Emilio, he's watching. He used to use that a long time ago, and he actually posted on our site a few days ago about how the flashlight method is bullcrap, and like he had like a video of it being debunked and all that, and he's like, well, I'm not using that anymore because it's not reliable. That's not to say sometimes it wasn't something paranormal doing it, but it's not reliable as evidence. And I think since Emilio has found our group, he's interested in getting solid evidence as opposed. I mean, he's already decided for himself whether or not it's real or not. So he's gone past, and we kind of did at one point too. I mean, we've changed our minds back and forth, or I've changed my mind back and forth a few times. But when I first started, I had already decided for myself what I believed, but I wanted to put it to the test and find like proof, and that and it's kind of changed from there. And I think it's the same with him.
Terrence says that we got flamed for pointing out one of the phone apps was replaying vocal audio.
Yeah, I know which. Post up the name of that, Taryn. I can't remember the name of it, but the one they were doing, what it does is it uses your microphone, and it listens to what's going on in the room. And then it'll repeat keywords. It's really a random thing, but it'll repeat a random word.
I think those things
back.
are fun, like as a trope, like they're fun to play with. But I don't understand how anyone thinks they're legit.
Well, here's the deal: if I can't physically figure out how to manipulate that object to get the words that I want, why would a ghost be able to do that? Like, why is a ghost more tech savvy than I am?
Ghosts from the 18th century, they know how to work it.
Well, I mean, you're walking in here with a recorder. Yeah, and it's always a ghost from the 18th century. I mean, say it's the ghost of, a hipster. That would be horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just like some hipster ghost in your house judging your record collection going, boo. It's just...
Boo, this sucks.
Like, yeah, I got a Hall & Oates album, man. I mean, geez, it was on sale.
Kenny says, number one excuse from parents that get duped by phone apps. My son/daughter would never lie to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they would.
Oh, and it's like when I get jumped on about explaining how a Ouija board works.
Oh, yeah, I've been in that argument so many times.
Fucking hate that. It's like, look, I'm not saying
that it can't be
that it can't be paranormal,
but it can't. So stop.
It could. Maybe if the planchette moved on its own, or what, you got to take the human element out of that to prove it anyway. Maybe a ghost is talking to you through your piece of wood that you scribbled some letters on.
Or maybe answering your own questions.
Or maybe the odometer effect has been proven over and over and over again, and at least some of the fucking time you're talking to your own subconscious. Yeah. I mean, one of these things has been proven indefinitely to at least happen some of the time, and one of these things has never been proven ever. That's the and I was talking about that with...
We're going to go with the unproven thing because I like that better.
It's funner.
It's so much cooler when my kid got possessed by a demon, But have I ever gotten anything with use of a Faraday cage? Yeah, I mean, almost everything we use has a Faraday cage, and we still get EVPs on the control recorder. I mean, not as often as the non-Faraday caged ones, but it does happen.
I say, Emilio says it was very foggy when we went to Kyle. Those photos very well could have been a column of fog. I'm skeptical, but I'm still open to the possibility of it being something else. Yeah, see,
Right.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I'm fine with you putting something up that could possibly be something else, but could possibly be something. There isn't anything wrong with that.
Because we've left orbs on our page.
Holy shit, I've got so many pictures of orbs
Even
on our
though
page.
we
I
don't
don't
believe in them.
We've like 100% debunked orbs ever being a thing, except for the one time it was a thing. But I always say, you know, out of the 3,000 pictures we've taken, we have one mono wavelength anomaly. That is not evidence. That's an anomaly. That's not how science works. There's always some kind of exception. If I had to guess, if you take orb energy off the table, you say it absolutely can't be that because it's disproved, I'd say it's some kind of contamination that we cannot identify. Meaning, I don't know what the F it is. I know it's not a flashlight. That I know. I know it's not the IR light from the other camera. That I know. Doesn't mean there's not a helicopter shining a light there or something. You know what I mean? It's
some kind of outside something that just randomly showed up. It's possible. Ghosts have magic. Yes, Kenny, ghosts have magic.
What did you think about Ron saying Ashton during our Hinesdale night? Okay, so I was watching that, and I was trying to interact with that. I'm not sure. I think y'all were using the same app that you had actually debunked as repeating things. And I'm going by memory here, so if I'm wrong, don't jump my ass, okay? But I'm pretty sure that before you guys got the returned EVP or whatever came through his headphones that said my name, I'm pretty sure when y'all announced the question I was asking, like to the audience or whatever, I think you said Ashton says blah, 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 blah. And so that word is basically put out into space for the app to repeat.
Yeah.
So I think that's how my name got pulled out of there. If I'm guessing, I might be totally wrong. Like I said, I'm going by memory. I'm just trying to stay logical about the whole thing. If my name wasn't out there or whatever, the only other logical possibility is maybe that app actually pulls data off the
phone.
Off the internet or whatever, because they were live streaming like we do, kind of. And it was really cool the way that I really liked that experiment they did, and I want to replicate that in our group in a different way. I hate the word bank apps or the things where it returns something like that. But basically what they were doing is they had one person like with the phone or tablet app, and he had on headphones like this, but he could only hear what was it, they were super noise canceling. He could only hear what the responses were, and somebody else was asking the questions. And so he didn't know if the answers were relevant to the questions at all. The way I want to do that experiment is I want Sarah to use the parabolic mic and have noise canceling on the outside of some earbuds so she can hear with the parabolic mic. Somebody else can ask the question quietly, and then she can listen for the answer, for a real-time answer that's not generated by a computer or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it would be interesting to see what the responses are. Now, if I had to put it, like 90% of we get EVPs all the time, but like 90% of the responses don't seem to correlate to the question that happens right before the EVP or whatever. So I've always wondered if there's some kind of lag in, they're actually...
They're 10 minutes behind.
Right, like, because we always say, like, it's residual or there's no...
Or, like, the theory, isn't it, that it takes them energy to respond, and maybe the lag is because they're accruing this energy?
Or maybe time works... I think that was actually one of the questions I asked them to ask on their thing is, does time work differently for you? And we haven't asked that in one of our sessions. But I'm wondering if they're not answering a question we haven't asked yet, or something.
Yeah.
Try to pull up all the
Or-
questions and all the answers and see if any of them actually matched any of the other questions.
But then you run into the problem of you're trying to make connections where
Yeah,
there's no
self-fulfilling
connections.
prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kenny's talking about the Faraday cages.
Faraday cages, tricky. Faraday bags don't work. They do and they don't. It depends if you're using them right. You have to ground them. I built a Faraday box, and the amount of layering it took to block out AM signals was significant. FM is easy to block, and that's one of the reasons we actually use the FM signal instead of AM. AM band, it's a wider band, so it is harder for it to block. FM bounces a lot easier. You can make a Faraday bag work if you like alligator clip it to a screw or something, and you ground it. They will actually work. They're more designed to block the RF signals that you can get off like the chips on your card or whatever. Like they're real good for like if you want to put like your wallet in it or whatever, so nobody can steal your data off of it with a RF thing. But for practical experiments, yeah, they are kind of a pain in the ass. I have the Faraday box we're talking about. It's a wooden box. It's actually lined with basically like chicken wire that has a ground lead that comes out of it that grounds, and then what we use has actually had it's modified so it doesn't receive signals properly anyway. So why not disconnect and remove the mics? They open phones to take out IR filters, so why not disconnect or remove mics?
Well, Taryn was saying they debunked when the mic is on because they shut the ability for the mic to pick up audio. And he was
and Amelia, probably the reason is because of budget. So, like, a lot of like the phones and stuff that we use to test apps and things like these are like older phones and things that we've modified, but I think a lot of the tablets and phones they were using were like their current models. So I would never suggest to somebody, hey, yank the mic out of the phone you actually use. But I mean that is good. But one of the reasons we know that some of those apps even use the mic to begin with is because when you first install it, it says you got to give permission to the app
to access your audio and your
camera
and
yeah. Like the doll saying it was going to hurt you, but it could have been saying yes to a previous question. Yeah, absolutely. And we were all joking that night about the doll wanting to hurt me, but that was the question that came directly before the EVP showed up. Did you get to hear that one? I posted it online. But
my internet's been real screwy the last few days.
There was a psychic, and I do this because he was a troll. I would never just make fun of a psychic being on there unless they were just being an asshat. This dude was an asshat, but he was saying, "Oh, that doll wants to hurt you." He was just like all kinds of horrible stuff. I'm like, okay, doll.
Just being antagonistic on purpose.
Yeah, he was. It was fun for a while, honestly. He's kind of my spirit animal for a little bit there. But I asked the doll, I said, do you want to hurt me? And then the EVP we got was like, yes. But it was like high. Like it's like I looked at the frequency, it was like in a girl's register. Like and I know where my register is at.
It sounded odd.
It was weird.
It was me in your closet.
Yes. And no. Too much? Okay. But it could have been asking a previous question, like when I was like, do you need to go to the bathroom? Or
it's just, yes. But it took it a while.
Yeah, it's just, it had to think about it. I'm not sure. Yeah, don't take a mic out of an S9 until they release the S15. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Emilio, Phil. Phil is who I'm talking about. And I think you were actually the person that said something about being cynical and skeptical. So if you've got any great comments about this episode, that would be great. But yeah, Phil, he was just riding my nuts all night. He's like, what, you can't afford a 60-watt light bulb? I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, I went and looked at his page, and like his wife like, I wanted to be really mean because like you could tell he was like recently divorced and no one liked him because he had like 5 friends. And I was like, I know why you're divorced, asshole. But I didn't do that. I just ended up blocking him. But and I don't mind suggestions about different experiments and stuff. And I absolutely invite people to poke hole, like if
constructive criticism.
Yeah. And if we're doing, if you spot a hole in something we're doing, like if I make the claim that this has to be a ghost because, and there's a hole in it, I absolutely want that brought to my attention. We have gone back and rechecked things because of that and came back and said, oh no, it was on our most recent investigation. There's some sounds that came up and the whole group reviewed them, and it was brought up that, well, this actually sounds like some metal that was outside, and we kind of all went back and looked at pictures or whatever, and there's one of those like little turbine things outside that would make that sound. So when we go back, we're going to go look and see if there's that, and that would be something that I missed.
Mm-hmm. We're not perfect, so
that's fine. I mean, that's kind of the freaking point. But when you're just like drilling and just being antagonistic, and you're like, well, I could do it better. Well, then do it better.
Yeah, show us the way.
Yeah,
then.
Quit watching my haunted doll. Go get your own haunted doll and show me something better. Mm-hmm. Just quit being a dickbag. No, Phil was the guy saying the doll was talking to him through his van speakers. Ah, damn it, Cat, you're right. He is right. But that guy was kind of, I don't know. I don't know what was up with that dude. There was one dude. Oh yeah, David would ask questions to the doll through the chat. Mm-hmm. And that's something I set up. I said, try asking the doll questions through the chat. Let's see if we get anything. Why not? I mean, the phone was in the same room.
Sorry.
Is the doll? It's okay. The phone was in the same room as the doll. It's a ghost. Why? Maybe it can read a text.
Yeah.
And then maybe it can answer it. So David was asking like all kinds of questions, like 3 nights straight, dude, just text after text. And then Phil would answer he's like, oh wow, I can hear it through my speakers in my van. That doll wants to kill you. Or that doll wants a friend or something like that, and that was amusing to watch. And I asked a control question. I said, hey Phil, or I said, ask the doll, what did I leave out of the letter? Because I read the letter I got online or whatever, but I had left off
the portion. Yeah.
Well, all it was the initials of the person that wrote it to me. I still don't know that person's name, but I know what letter her name started with, and that's the only thing I left off. And he never could. He just ignored the question completely. Like he didn't even want to broach it. So I mean that was a good control. When you consider that ghosts exist in a different form than we do, or extra dimensional, then you take in account modern studies showing that time could be nonlinear. Then a ghost could respond in real time to a question you asked hours, minutes, or even days before you received the EVP. Absolutely, time is a lot of. There's a lot of theories and studies showing that time might be nonlinear, but we do know that time doesn't always function at the same rate, dependent on the amount of gravity waves that are in a certain area. So the further away, the less gravity, like the further you get out of Earth's orbit, the faster time moves for you. We've proved that with like atomic clocks. Mm-hmm. So if a ghost is ethereal and gravity doesn't affect it, time could possibly move differently for ethereal objects.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, about how it might be just a circle of time, and that's kind of the residual idea. And so yeah, we've talked about
I must have mentioned, I must have missed this. Phil said Debbie was mad at me for mentioning Jenny. David said. Was that on the day I wasn't watching?
Maybe, yeah. That was the first night. Yeah, and David was asking a ton of questions. Jenny was the little girl that supposedly owned the doll and had passed away. But the doll was supposed to be her best friend, so why would it be mad about that?
Who knows?
You're fading fast.
What?
You're fading
I'm
fast.
I'm fine.
Are you going to make it through the next podcast?
Yes, I really am fine.
The next podcast should be interesting because we're doing our Strictly Sickly episode after this, and Sarah is strictly sickly right now. And the less mass, the less gravity is imposed on it. Right. And so if it's ethereal, it's probably at 0 mass, so...
Would it bother you less if I went and laid down?
What? No, I don't know. Stick
put your
to
head
the plot.
Am I bothering people?
Put your head
No, I'm just trying to troll you for,
for
being sick.
How could you?
Yeah.
What have you tried to get better?
But like I mentioned before, I feel like I've been hogging a lot of the mic space, but you're not feeling good, and
Well, and I pretty much agree with everything you have to say. I've really just between the ghost hunting thing and other stuff that's been going on this week, I've had so much of trolls that I...
Oh yeah, this is the week of trolls.
I've
With
had
everything
so
going on
much of
politically, it's just nuts. And I mean, it's not just this podcast too. It's the other one is like not under fire, but it kind of in the center of that topic area. But I did want to bring up that I don't think anybody is immune from accidentally crossing that line. I've definitely crossed that line into being cynical myself. And I don't know.
Taryn wants to know, are sound waves affected by gravity?
Sound waves are affected by gravity, but not as much as light or
Time?
no, thermodynamics, energy. Energy. Everything is affected by gravity. Gravity is, we now know gravity is measured in waves,
I think
but
he just had a stroke.
I did. But you have to think about this. Light has no mass, but light is energy. Light is also affected by gravity. So, like, when you're looking at a star, if that star's path of light is heading towards us or whatever, and there's a mass body by it, it will actually arc the photons, because photons, have almost zero mass, but they're there. So sound waves should be the same, because sound waves are it's hard to explain. Like, I can see it in my head, all the atoms like colliding together in making noise, which creates waves and frequency. The simple answer is yes. Sound waves are affected by gravity.
Couldn't have just said that to begin with.
What else would you expect after live streaming a stationary doll in the dark? I don't know. A little appreciation, maybe, for entertaining people for 4 days.
Oh, you stepped on his toes. Run.
Magnetism. Okay. To a degree. Magnetism has more to do with ferrous materials. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting off track.
Cynicism.
Yes, I have found myself sometimes slipping into cynicism because orbs are a good example.
Yeah, I'm very cynical about orbs.
Every time somebody shows me an orb picture, I have to. I mean,
I have to put my game face on.
My brain shuts off. Hey, I got this orb. So
Yeah.
You try to be nice, but my brain is going, are you did you listen to anything I just said for the past half hour in this presentation? I think
Nope.
that this person probably just watched before they showed it to me. Well, what about this orb? In the first picture Emilio sent me from Kyle was an orb. I love picking on him. He's like, what do you think of this orb? I'm like, I think it's an orb. But he wasn't trying to say it was a ghost. He's like, do you think it could be? And I was like, I think it's probably the white stuff that comes off the trees
I don't know,
in the
at that
back.
place, who knows?
Yeah. Well, and he debunked it before he sent it to me anyway. He's like, well, it was raining, there's moisture.
If
blah, blah,
I was
blah, blah,
him,
blah, blah.
I'd send you every stupid picture.
Just to get back at you.
I
for
do have
calling
it
him.
coming, but
I think
don't
I crossed into cynicism recently when my mom came to visit me. She's apparently still doing the paranormal stuff.
good.
on
She's
her
got
own.
it coming.
And she was asking me about the phone apps with the voice boxes kind of thing. She asked, I think, specifically about Spirit Box. And I was trying to explain to her that anything she got was just repeating back to her. And she said that it repeated something back that was extremely relevant to what they asked. And I could have explored it better, but I would just said, it's just repeating what you said. That's all I'm going to say about it. And I think it kind of crossed over into that. I don't really want to talk about it because it's crap. And so
it's not that, God damn it. It's not that I don't want to talk about it or educate somebody that doesn't know in a polite way without being snarky. I think the issue is that we've answered the question so many times. I mean, we have a whole podcast dedicated to, hey, this is or isn't really evidence because of this. And I think that's kind of one of the main things. And so
you just get exhausted explaining the same thing.
And our
again.
brains just get stuck in this mode. And so I think we get into these habits of just like automatically shutting down. But that's going to suck because somebody is going to show us an orb picture that's actually worth looking at. It's like the exception to the rule, right? And I'm afraid I'm going to automatically just shut it down and possibly be a snarky asshole about it. And I don't want to be that guy because it's happened to me.
Well, they voted and you are that guy.
What? Huh?
What? Nothing.
Oh my God. No, I look at everybody's evidence. And I am nice to people.
To their face. We look at everyone's evidence and we wait till they leave and we're like, did you see that?
Oh my God. No, we don't. We absolutely do not do that.
We've never done that.
Shut up. Y'all are ruining the illusion that we are approachable people.
Everyone already knows we're not approachable just based off of how many people hate us.
We are approachable because I do think that we talk to them about it, and sometimes we do laugh about stuff, but even when we do, we always try and give them the benefit of a doubt.
I never think anybody's experience is not a valid experience. I just don't necessarily think their evidence holds up. And I am really good at the technical stuff, but expressing myself about that thought process of, hey, what you went through is valid. What you experienced could absolutely be real, but what you're showing me to try to validate that's not what validates it to me. That doesn't prove to me, because you have some dust in a picture, that's not what proves to me that your experience was real. You actually experiencing it and being there and having presence of mind to try to document it, that's all the validation I need that it's a real experience. But that thing on your phone is just dust. You got dust at the same time. Oh, do I got more comments here?
Yeah, I don't know who Jesse Roberts is, but I'm late to this conversation. But what about my experiences I had at the hotel I worked at?
I read through your. I know who Jesse is. He emailed me, and I haven't actually had time to properly address what's going on there. He worked at or went to. I think he worked at a hotel. That's actually like down in Cowtown. He wants us to go check out. He knows somebody there. And he had an experience. Oh, you'll like this because he had an elevator experience or whatever,
okay.
where there was a little boy on the elevator.
That's horrifying.
And it went to the wrong floor, and then like the little boy got off, went to a certain room, and then the elevator took him back. And correct me if I'm getting any of your story wrong, but the elevator went back to his room. So anyway, he finally got out of the elevator, went to talk to somebody about what happened. And they're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then he went back to go check the room that he saw this little boy go into because the room supposedly didn't have a guest or whatever. And they went in there. There was nobody there. And apparently other people at that hotel have had those experiences. And the thing is, Jesse, is that is all subjective. So people tell me these stories all the time, and they're great. So I have, to be honest, I have a balancing act I have to do. And it's that I have to listen to your experience and I have to judge it on its physical possibility. At the same time, I also have to be open-minded enough. I'm sorry. I also have to be open-minded enough to recognize that some of these things could have happened.
She also said she had those experiences before she knew the history.
And that's always good, and that's one of the controls that we use during our experiments.
And that other people had the same experience, to me, makes it more of course, we weren't there, but that is something we like to hear. Is
right, absolutely.
I knew it before the history. other people said the same thing, they validated it.
Right. And so what I just said, I think some people hear that and they take it at face value that I don't believe them. That's not it. I'm trying to be objective about the story. I'm trying to be objective about the things that are going on. I want to be fair both ways. If I absolutely just buy into what somebody told me and I'm like,
I said she.
You did.
Okay.
I just keep screwing up.
Dang it, Brad.
I know, I suck. I should quit.
And I'm the one that's fading fast, huh?
We're all
God damn.
fading.
If I just buy into everything I hear, like right off the bat, and I'm like, oh, that's absolutely a paranormal experience. I'm no better than that chick we made fun of at Tyler.
Yeah.
That said every time you get a weird feeling in a room, you're having a psychic
moment.
experience. Yeah.
And
But-
sometimes we can take it too far the other way. Like we're
if
not
if
immune
I'm,
to that.
That's what I'm trying not to do, is immediately shut it down. Because here's the thing, like if I just look at it objectively, not doing any investigation or whatever, I can say, okay, maybe there was a kid on the elevator, and maybe the elevator malfunctioned, and then the kid went down the stairs later. These are all plausible explanations. That doesn't mean what she thinks happened, it didn't happen that way. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's the point of the investigation part. And that's the part I want to get to. And the likeliness of finding evidence of the story that she sent me is very, very low. But maybe I can find other stuff when I go there to kind of help support that there is something going on there. It would be great. But I like that she didn't know anything about the place before she went in, that other people had those experiences, because that's what we do with our investigations. Only half of us know
We always have someone who doesn't know what happened.
anything. They go in as a blank slate.
I usually know nothing.
Yeah, and I like the...
And I understand that's not a pure control or scientific study.
Yeah,
but it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. And I always liked the groups better when they were using a psychic, and you don't know because it's a TV show, but they use a psychic and they say the psychic didn't know anything about the place before we took him there, and then they pick up on stuff. I'm more prone to believe that, but I don't know for sure that. So if we ever used a psychic or sensitive, that is how I would want to use them. I wouldn't give them any previous information.
Catherine just said something interesting. You need at least one person in your group who believes and isn't skeptical, but is still logical about what it could be. I don't think we have anyone in our group that is an actual believer.
Me and Allie.
I'd say Allie is a believer, but
You, Brad?
I say I don't believe in ghosts, but I don't believe in the definition of ghosts. I don't see evidence to support the definition, but I think there are I've seen paranormal things.
I was just wondering if we actually had that in our group.
If I believed everything was 100% debunked, I wouldn't still be chasing it.
Why not? It's still fun.
Well, I mean, you're right. I would still be doing it, but I would probably be I would definitely be across that line on the cynical side of it.
It's like the reason I keep doing it is because everyone's story is, I didn't believe in ghosts until.
Right.
And I mean, I was abducted by aliens last night, so.
Oh my God, you have to tell everybody about your alien abduction story.
It was a sleep paralysis episode. But my brother-in-law is really into aliens, and he is fully convinced that I was abducted by aliens last night. So I have been sick. I've been really sick to my stomach since Sunday. I haven't been sleeping. And I finally got a good night's sleep last night. But the night before last, in between 2 and about 6 a.m., I was in and out of sleep. So I don't know if this happened when I was falling asleep or when I was just waking up. But I had this dream/sleep paralysis episode. And what had happened was, classically, I was stuck. I couldn't move. But I'm in this room that looks like an OR. Like, it's got the bright light over my head, and there's people. They're tall and they're thin. And, of course, I'm on my back, so maybe they're not as tall as I thought they were. But they were very thin, and they're wearing this OR-type garb. You know, the face mask, the glasses, the splatter shields. And I can't move at all, and somehow we can communicate even though they're not talking to me. And I'm telling them I'm scared, and they said, that's okay, you'll be going home soon and you won't remember any of this. And around about that time, they explained to me that I'd been there for a week. And I was like, well, okay, that's nuts. They're like, but you're going to go back to exactly when you fell asleep, so it's no big deal. Now, we're going to use this device to make it look like you've only been gone for the amount of time you should have been gone. So what it's going to do is it's going to make sure you don't have any excess body hair growth, or oily hair or oily skin. And they pull out this device that they're going to use to reverse this weeks worth of aging I've had, and it fries my face. And they freak out. They're like, oh my gosh, it wasn't supposed to hurt you. This is terrible. What do we do? And then I come out of the sleep paralysis, but it was bad enough that I woke up and I was pulling skin off my lips.
Well, you know what, though? That's a good point. I didn't think about that. For it to technically be sleep paralysis, you wouldn't have been able to move your hands and your arms. I just thought about that.
I couldn't move until I was finally waking up and I started scratching at my face.
Oh, okay. So I'm misunderstood the story a little bit.
But when I woke up, I had like pieces of skin and blood under my nails where I'd been scratching at my mouth where I thought they'd burned me.
Right.
But it was the only time I've ever had a sleep paralysis episode where it was aliens.
Have you done anything recently where you've been like thinking about?
We actually had that conversation on our last podcast where I said that I think that most alien abduction experiences are sleep paralysis.
So you think it could have been in the back of your head?
Yeah, I think I psychologically did that to myself, and the fact that I hadn't been keeping down food, I hadn't been sleeping, and I really wasn't feeling well. But man, Jonathan is dead convinced.
I know. I can't wait to have him on the show. That's going to be great. Hey, Jesse says they have video footage, and she's talking about the hotel again.
Okay.
And I don't remember the name of the hotel, if you can post it up. But they have video footage, and it's been investigated by other groups. Hey, that's a good sign. That means we can probably get to go do it. I'd really like to see what you find. Hope you broadcast it. When you do, I totally understand and I appreciate that, because we're really trying not to shut people down, but we want to be the group that's seen as the logical group. And damn, the big reason is because the thing is we are
She said this was 15 years ago too.
We are the logical group. We look for the logical explanations behind everything. We try to test everything to the extremes, but the thing is at the end of the day, we still find evidence, and I think that makes it stronger evidence, because we don't come up with as much, and our stuff is more airtight.
David asked, do y'all all believe, and I don't know which one he was referring to.
They were saying there has to be one believer in the group.
Oh yeah, he's asking.
Just you and Allie.
Here's the way we word it is bad. We all believe different things. We all believe there is something going on
outside the realm of scientific positivity.
Right. We don't.
I think it is science. I just don't think it's proven science yet. I think one day it will be.
The problem is there is no defining vocabulary for it. So what you call a ghost is not what I think a ghost is. Ghost by definition is the spirit of a person, like walking around doing things, rattling chains, going boo, I didn't go to heaven. I don't think that's a thing. That's not what it is. I do think that there is like signatures of people that we catch sometimes. I think that's a thing. I don't think it's supernatural. I think it's just natural. or preternatural.
Preternatural is the
right. Yeah.
Instead of pseudoscience, it's preternatural. It's not
right.
It's not proven to be natural.
I do think that there's things that wander around that are intelligent, but I don't think it's people. I think it's alien is the best word I can come up with, but I don't mean like little gray men. I mean like we don't have a clear understanding of what our dimension is, how time works.
I like Emilio, sleep paralysis equals alien abduction or possession.
Yeah, I like how he immediately follows that up with, I joke, guys, I'm very sarcastic. Please don't think I believe everything we say.
We're all the same way. It's cool. And then David said, if they did probe me, at least they knocked me out for it.
Yeah. Oh, Jessica said it's called Stockyards Hotel.
We will totally fly to the navigator so you go back to your correct time. Yes.
You should have had this stuff under your nails analyzed for elements. I'm pretty sure it was just because I also have this bad habit of picking at my lips.
She has like no outer layers of skin on her lips.
The other thing that happened when I woke up that was really weird is I threw up about 3 toilet bowls full of just green, nasty stuff, which is weird because I hadn't kept down any food since Sunday and I hadn't been able to keep down any drink.
But it's also not weird for you to just throw up 3 toilet bowls worth of nastiness.
The amount that I threw up was weird. It makes me wonder if I wasn't waking up enough to drink in my sleep.
It's very hard to judge
ice cream in your sleep.
It's very it's very hard to judge some of your like psychological and physical responses on our investigations. Because so much of it could be some of your chronic illness. Like when we were talking about like experiencing the EMFs and you had the thing
in my back,
your back or whatever, you're like, hey, like my arm is tingling. Well, that could be something touching you, or it could be that you're losing feeling in your arm.
And that's something I told you on one of the investigations is like almost like Phantom Women. I get ghost sensations in that hand. So anything I say about something touching that arm is completely invalid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And David, my face does look pretty good for it having been fried off last night.
Yeah. It's that regeneration, that machine that they stuck you in. He was asking all of us, so we can't speak for Allie or Don. We did have an episode where we actually interviewed Don and asked him what his beliefs were, so you can go back in there. He is a Christian. I don't remember what denomination
he's Southern Baptist.
I don't think is he met.
He's Southern Baptist. He's been a music minister my entire life. He's Southern Baptist.
But I don't think he's like strict Southern. He's
chill. He's chill.
Yeah, so he's just kind of like loose. And Allie is loose Christian too, kind of.
But I'd say she's our most strong believer, and
right.
In that group, that doesn't amount to much.
I am like the best, and it's not even a good description, but I'm atheist agnostic. Mostly just agnostic.
I'm an agnostic atheist, as in I'm an atheist, but I don't know for sure because I don't think anyone can know for sure.
You're an atheist that still fears hell.
Well, that's because it was
shoved into her brain.
I mean, she can vouch for this. You're not Christian, but it was so ingrained.
Oh man, did you hear the venom in that? You're not Christian. You're a heathen.
I was raised very Southern Baptist, hellfire, and blah, blah, blah. So it's just there.
I used to have dreams a giant stone Jesus would chase me down, eat me, and I would end up in hell.
Yeah.
I don't think that fear of hell ever goes away.
It doesn't. I'm married, and every time I have sex, I'm
feel
I'm going
bad.
to hell because I'm having sex.
I still can't do it.
Because you are going to go to hell every time you have sex.
And it's just there. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah, the brainwashing goes so deep. And nothing, my parents did what they thought was best for me. I'm not trying to insult them. They were trying to save my soul. But that brainwashing goes so deep that I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of it. I'm always going to
I'm
fear
the
hell.
same too. I'm fairly certain that there is not like an all-powerful, like
being.
Omniscient being. And let's put it this way: if there was, I would absolutely not, unless that being is flawed like we are. Like
why would I worship you?
The thing is like I can deal with the fact if it's flawed, because then it can make mistakes. Like, when I was younger, that was always my take on the Bible. I would tell people, they're like, well, God knows everything and God isn't flawed. And I don't want to get too preachy on our paranormal podcast, but this is how like my thinking was. I was like, okay, so you think God can't make any mistakes and all these bad, horrible things happen
for a reason,
right? And I'm like, well, that's horrible. But my thing but they say God loves you, and then there was lots of parts in the Bible where God was angry. He shows emotion. You cannot be an emotional being and not be flawed. I can handle the concept of if there is some higher being or whatever, that they have emotions and then they make mistakes, because then I can forgive them for making people's life crappy and
I don't know.
And but if it's somebody that's like all powerful or whatever, that person's a maniac. It's not acceptable.
Besides just research, I've got 2 really good reasons why I'm not a Christian anymore. And say one of them is because I've been chronically ill for so long, and I got real sick of people telling me it was because I wasn't Christian enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was my own fault, and taking the blame for that. And I did not want to hear that anymore.
I got older, and I let go of certain things, like after shootings. Well, you weren't there when that happened because God wanted to save you. Well, why do you want to save me, but not the person that got shot?
That was the other reason that I left my faith, was because my daughter got ran over by a dirt bike. And she came very close to dying. She was walking her bike. She got hit by this dirt bike that was going very fast. She hit her head. It bounced off the ground. She should have been more injured than she was. While we were in the hospital, we met a kid with cancer, terminal cancer. And when I got home from the hospital, my sister-in-law said to me, "Your daughter was saved because of your faith." And I broke down because I'd prayed with that father, but his kid was dying anyway. And I thought to myself, well, why is it fair that my daughter's...
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but this other kid...
But then there's the case, you can't know... God works in mysterious ways. You can't know, blah, 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 blah.
I know enough.
Well, here's the deal. And the same people that are doing that are judging people, and, it's like, well, we don't like you because you're gay. Or, I don't want to get into too many social issues, but it's like, okay, if you don't know God's work, then you absolutely have no business passing judgment on other people, right? But back to the paranormal thing.
Well, and the other thing is, I know a lot of people have a hard time with the Christianity and paranormal because how I was raised, what I'm doing right now would be very wrong, because trying to contact the supernatural is a sin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't, and that's one of the things I was trying to get to on Dawn's interview is like, hey, how do you reconcile the fact that you're practicing necromancy technically?
Yeah, I just don't
think...
He
danced around it.
Well, I
think he just doesn't tell his church friends.
Well, even if he did, I don't think he thinks what we're doing is that. I think he thinks we're doing science.
To some religions, that's blasphemy.
I don't know.
But I just... back on track is, I have slipped into these pockets of cynicism where... when I see another group get out the portal with the crystals glued to, when I see these things that I know are crap, it automatically makes every other thing they tell me, it's like when you start a sentence stupid, it's like everything after that, you're like, whatever, dude.
The other thing that bothered me the most was we were at one of the panels and this group whipped out the portal with all the crystals and stuff, and that's what everybody was interested in.
It's rough to see that.
And I'm like, but this is the biggest piece of crap out here, but this is what everybody wants to see.
Because it immediately... it
gets results.
We were sitting there, and it was talking to them.
Yeah.
And it's like, that should be your biggest clue.
Were you there that year? Mm-mm. Yeah, no, that group whipped out the portal, and everyone else walked straight back past us and went to this group with the portal, and I'm like... Oh, this is frustrating.
It's one of those things that the misinformation spreads so fast, and then everybody's just so drawn to something that's interesting and fun, and it's going to get results.
It has shiny lights, and it echoes, and it's...
And then people are just drawn to it, and then they want to spread it to their friends, and then more people know about that kind of thing, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads.
Like an STD.
Yeah, like an STD. And it's awful because...
It's fun when you get it, but then...
everybody's over there spreading STDs, and you're trying to hand out condoms, and nobody will take them. That's what it feels like.
This isn't the fun part.
Yeah.
That's not fun. I can't feel anything.
Yeah. So it's just...
Now I feel burning.
But
that's what it feels like.
I think at some point, though, the cynical thing is healthy, but it also turns you into a troll.
Yeah.
I think it's going to turn you into a troll, but I think it's going to make us miss something important.
That's another thing we've brought up with our...
I think what cynicism is ultimately is you think you're being skeptical, but you've crossed the line into being closed-minded. Mm-hmm. If you're skeptical, you're still open-minded. It just means you question. How do you keep from being cynical? How do you keep from crossing that line? Like, things I'm doing is I'm trying to re-examine
I was going to say, I think the way to stop crossing that line is to keep asking questions, because the moment that you say it's solved and you're disregarding things, that's when you've crossed the line.
Well, if something is solved, it's solved.
Yeah.
I mean...
No, I'm talking about things that don't have proof or whatever, but you have just decided that's what it is. You're not asking any more questions. This is just how it is. That's when you've crossed over.
That's willful ignorance.
That's just disregarding everything.
Emilio says that, okay, I use a portal box, but I don't use crystals, IP radio, or word banks. I made mine purely to eliminate the static from the spirit box.
It sounds like what you're using is a sound
something that gets rid of the awful noise that spirit box makes.
Oh, thanks, Emilio.
God, I hate that noise.
I don't think that's a great idea. I'm interested to see what results he gets with it in the future.
He says he hasn't yet received anything on it. So
okay, so here's one of the things with the spirit box is the static is supposed to create.
I know, but God, it is
energy.
Annoying.
Oh, I hate it too. Honestly, I think basically what he's doing is he's using a compressor pedal, which takes out that frequency at the time, and so it'll only allow the responses through. Like, we use a compressor in our soundboard, so like when I want to eliminate background noise, like the fan's going right now, I have a compressor going. You can't hear the fan, but you hear our voice because it breaks a certain decibel level. I think he's using something similar, but I think some of the responses are supposed to be in that static. But if I have to be totally objective, that also creates pareidolia.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to make sense out of it.
I think it's a cool experiment.
I think it is too. I think on the one hand, it helps eliminate some of that pareidolia, because any sounds he gets are absolutely sounds that are coming through. On the other side of it, he might be making it to where the device doesn't work anymore. So I'm interested to see what he gets with it. I don't. It's one of those things, unless we do side by sides to see what happens. I don't know. I do know he detuned his like we do ours,
cool.
which makes me super happy, because I hate people that have like the antenna out and they're like, oh hey, wow, apparently ghosts like metal. No, you're getting the local rock station, but
Dude, that's Russ Martin. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that is what it is. But I know I've crossed that line into cynicism sometimes, because I've turned down cases based on the claims that were out. I was like, that's not worth my time. I think I already know what's going on with that.
Wish you wouldn't do that, because we have...
Some of them sound kind of dangerous, actually. Like the people sound like we might become suitcases.
I do worry when we go on to residential cases whose house we're stepping into.
It's like the Lipan one that turned out really well, but we went out to that house in the middle of nowhere. I was like, we're going to end up dead.
I'm glad that turned out well, but that was so dumb. Well, there was a big group of us. We
also,
went as
people
a big
knew
group.
where we were.
Yeah.
No, who would come find us? They knew we were in Lipan. That's a big area.
Come down this dirt road, turn onto this dirt road, make a right at the old burned down church.
But you're right. From now on, when we go to residential, we really should have more people that know where we are.
We should tag ourselves on a map or something,
or
so
bring
that
our phone and turn on the Find Your Friends or whatever.
Yeah,
app
GPS
thing.
or something.
Just have everybody know.
Emilio says the spirit box runs through a sound compressor into a reverb pedal and out through an amp. If it actually gets stuff, can we start using that so I don't have to listen to that damn static anymore?
I hope you get something, Emilio. Your guitar equipment sometimes vibrates from room sound or used to. I wonder if it could somehow be used for experiments. Oh, yeah, you're just talking about the reverberation, like the strings will pick up errant sounds on the string or whatever. But that's what the parabolic mic is for. It does that a lot better. It picks up those subsonic sounds and translates them into a higher frequency so that we can hear and understand them. And it worked on its very first outing. Ooh. I like the parabolic mic.
That is my new favorite toy.
I've made a modification for it now, to where you don't have to hold the little record button. There's a recorder on the side of it, and it's constantly recording.
Good idea.
So when you're not holding the trigger, it's recording regular room noise. When you pull the trigger on it, it records through the mic channel on it and gets the parabolic audio.
Ooh, fancy.
Bam! Tech savvy, not scientific method. That's
according to the one dude, yeah.
Yeah. Were you guys investigating with hiding it? You know, I've been keeping that under wraps, but it's getting close enough. I guess we'll go ahead and say we're going out to Old Alton Bridge in Denton, which is known as the Goatman's Bridge. We've investigated before out there, so has Ghost Adventures. We've never really taken any guests out there before, and it's after Halloween, and it's on a weeknight. So I
say
think
the first time we went, it was right before Halloween. We ran into a ton of people. I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time.
We also have different equipment than we did when we made that original video. And the thing is we're going back to a lot of old locations
with our new stuff and
with our new procedures to make different types of videos. Because back in those days, we were making more of like the reality show ghost hunting sort of thing, and now we're actually like coalescing that together into like facts, you know, and we're highlighting what the experiences were, because we never really talked about our experiences a lot in the videos. We talked about what we actually captured, and I think it made the videos lopsided. So even though we really kind of felt like, if you watch our videos, we pretty much say that Alton Bridge is completely debunked, but the thing is we did have experiences out there. We just didn't have anything documentable.
You were attacked by an armadillo.
It was an No, it was a. Oh yeah.
It was an armadillo.
Yeah, it was an
don't get
armadillo.
leprosy.
But they've also opened up part of the back area a little bit more. Like, you can go further back. I don't think Kristen's been out there.
Nope.
It's a cool location. We're gonna need some heavy-duty bug spray, but
Well, it's kind of cold, so
yeah, some of the bug. I don't know. We'll take it just in case.
Allie says I can't wait until December. Yeah, my daughter's super excited.
Oh yeah. We're going back with the kids for that one. But yeah, on the 15th, we're taking Heidi out there, and so y'all know where we're at. So we're not taking her out there to turn her into a wallet. So everybody knows where she's at. But we do have the mobile static cams now, and so I'm gonna be able to run some extension cords off our little generator that we have now, and have the bridge covered from 4 different angles, like who's coming up, who's going away, what cars are coming, things like that, and point some at the bridge. And then we've got some different handheld equipment now. Our sound experiments are easier to do outside. Like before, I mean, it was nothing but contamination, but now we have the control recorder that's enclosed, so we can have that on the bridge too, to compare with the live recorders. So I'm actually kind of excited to see, do we get something different than the conclusion that we came to
before
when we were
Emilio
there.
asked have we ever gotten into something substantial at Old Alton Bridge. She's been out there several times and only got flashlight activity, which I debunked recently.
Yeah, so we've never captured anything on video or audio that was substantial or still shots. But you had the experience by the bush. There wasn't anything in the bush, and something did like shake the shit out of it. It was pretty scary. And I did see the shadows on the back trail that scared the crap out of me. It looked like somebody was running at me. And
my dad, I think, had some sort of...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me and your dad were walking down the trail talking shit about you. And something was coming like up the trail, and he just like stopped dead in his tracks. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, there's something coming. Like, we just bolted out of there. I didn't get a chance to see it. But I did see some lights in the woods, but I think those are headlights from the highway, I think is what that is.
Is that place heavily wooded or something?
It's heavily wooded, but it's also right next to a highway.
Because I wonder how many animals are probably out there. And
tons.
Do I need to bring like my bear spray or something?
No, I don't think there's any of that. There might be an alligator.
Town, so there's less like to be big animals.
Yeah, maybe some coyotes or something.
And it's a park with like trails and stuff, so like people are going through there like all the time. We were actually worried about running into like homeless people maybe sleeping out
some
in the woods. Yeah, it's a really interesting place with really interesting history. It turns out like half that history is BS anyway after you really dig into it. Because I was taking what Becky was saying on her tour at face value, like it had historical merit. Turns out a lot of that crap, there's no record of any of that stuff even happening.
Well, good to know.
Yeah. And these are the same peoples whose stories changed as soon as they got on TV too. Mm-hmm. So that investigation learned us up on a very important lesson about putting cameras in people's face and them knowing they're going to be on TV. Mm-hmm. What are the legends? I'm going to save that for when we actually do the live stream. I will talk about it then. If you absolutely can't wait, hit up our YouTube channel and look for the old Alton Bridge episode, because it goes into the whole thing. But as far as like paranormal activity, people see a half man, half goat there. People see lights in the woods. People have been attacked. And if you believe Zach Bagan's crew, one of their camera operators got possessed.
Yeah.
And they tried to summon a demon underneath the bridge. So it's a pretty interesting location.
I am excited. That's the 17th, or is it the 15th? It's one of the.
That one's the 15th. 15th, okay. That's a Thursday night. So so you might be working on that one. Oh, you're not? Okay.
I'm going.
Okay. I'm gonna borrow the SUV for that one then, so that we can all go. And then that same Saturday on the 17th, like the day 2 days after that, we're going back to Hood County Jail. Okay. Hood County Jail to finish all that video up. So we are so busy with paranormal investigation. And this weekend, Saturday, me and Dawn are going back to Needful Things to do some wrap-up shots for like the reveal, because we're going to show her all the evidence we got, tell her about the whole history of the place, because we're shooting the whole thing different than we used to now. Like, we didn't used to do reveals or anything like that. We just made a video. Mm-hmm. So we're going to show her all the stuff and film that, and then me and Dawn are going to do some interviews there. And I think you said you have a funeral to go to Saturday, so
something like that.
So we might get your interview later in the studio. That's fun. We're about to wrap up anyway.
Okay, you mean to scoot forward? You're fine.
Anyway, so I don't know. Let's see. I go to CHL every isolate. I know I can never
be too cautious.
Wildlife people are more threatening than any good. I know. I mean, I've thought I've seen a demon and I've been pretty scared before. But never as scared as the time we went to Kyle, and it sounded like there was an animal running after us, and it turned out to be there was nothing there, and it turned out to be like some really good paranormal evidence. But when I thought it was a freaking wild boar,
it was way more scary.
Yeah, like...
Well, it's like my scariest thing was when we pulled up to that church to go investigate, and there was just a car full of meth heads.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
or
God.
What we assume were meth heads.
They were meth heads.
But, yeah, we were just chilling in the car, like, what? Like, are they going to leave? And then eventually we were like, all right, we're not doing this. And then we just left. And then when we were finally... That was White Church. Mm-hmm. And then we were in White Church, and a whole bunch of redneck kids, like, pull up in their truck or whatever, and they're like I was like, oh God, we're gonna die. like that stuff is infinitely more scary than ghosts. Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll wrap this up, because Sarah had to exit. Yeah, she's not feeling too good. And
so, any last words you want to say to the trolls before you go?
Yeah, suck it, okay? We're trying. I don't mind your questions. I don't mind
constructive criticism.
I don't mind constructive criticism. Like, I welcome it. Text me, message me, ask me questions. Anything you want to know. If you want the raw files, the video, the audio documents, all the stuff we do, I'm happy to do that stuff. And if we made a mistake, I want mistakes pointed out. But there is no reason to just troll us or it's... I'm just tired of seeing everybody, like, fight each other on these boards and stuff like that. Because, like, oh, you're an idiot because you try to use science. Or you're an idiot because you believe religion or whatever. Or you're a complete idiot because you're skeptical. These things have to exist. Guys, you have to have an open mind for it. There's things out there we don't understand. I mean, the episode I had on Bigfoot, like a couple of weekends ago, I was saying that's more believable to me than ghosts, because at least, like, you know, out of the 50, what was the stat I put out there? Oh, it was 15 to 18,000 new species of animal are discovered every year, and there's some reclassifications in there. So there is at least a percentage of cryptozoological claims that are proven to be true. So, I mean, just when you look at it as a whole, there's things we don't understand, and those things are found just by being open-minded, but still critical. Be critical, but don't be so critical that you can't accept new information, or that you see everybody that thinks differently than you is an idiot, because not everybody's an idiot, and I'm going to try to get better about it. Kristen's going to try to get better about it, because Kristen's super skeptical.
I am, yeah. Kind of teetering on the edge of cynical in a lot of cases.
Which isn't good. Which isn't good, because we've scared the shit out of you.
Yeah. So I'm trying.
So obviously things scare the shit out of you. Yeah. So there's a part of you that thinks something could be going on. And if you're so close-minded to think that you can never be proven wrong, you're already wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody can be wrong. Nobody's
always wrong. I'm constantly wrong.
Yeah, you is.
There's some comments I can't see.
Okay, let's see. Are there any final thoughts here on the comments? So you guys okay. Thanks for tuning in, Taryn. Sarah, okay. Yeah, she's just sick. She's in the middle of a flare. If you follow our other podcast, you know she is like super sick. This is Texas. Even the redneck kids are. That is true. Trying to do paranormal investigation in Texas is terrifying because everybody's packing. David says, "Night guys, thanks for the stream. Can I have your YouTube details, Ashton? Please look at your videos." Yeah, a lot of our videos are on Facebook, but if you go to our main webpage, www.ntparanormal.com, right here, yeah, if you go there, in the top right corner, you'll see a little YouTube icon. Click the YouTube icon, and that's got a whole ton of like our older videos. Don't judge our older videos.
They were pretty bad.
Some of them were bad. I mean, we were always skeptical, but we made mistakes. That's the point, is we made mistakes.
We were new at it. So.
And I thought about taking a lot of those down.
Show the growth.
Yeah, ultimately I decided I want to leave those up because I want to show that we're not afraid to say we made mistakes, to say that we were wrong, to show that, hey, we were believers, but we were still critical. And, you know, at a certain point, I grew all the way to a certain direction where I was like, there's nothing paranormal. And the pendulum kind of swung
back,
halfway back, where I'm like, okay, there's something going on. It was right about the time I got grabbed by the hand. Mm-hmm. Like when something touched me and it wasn't just visual and audio for me anymore, and something actually grabbed me, I was kind of like, all right, I know I fucking experienced that. I know that. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, and that's, and we were saying that experience is valid even without proof before that, but that really rang true to me when that happened. That experience, that better be valid, because that happened, and y'all are locking me in that room next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday.
Yay.
I'm going to be locked in that room all by myself, and that's the one thing I said I wouldn't do at that place. So y'all might have...
I just held a doll up in my face, so if I can do that...
Y'all might have to muscle me down. Oh, yeah, and we're definitely going to have to do some more stuff with the doll.
Yeah.
The doll's going to be awesome. We're going to wire that bad boy up like Guantanamo Bay, and we're going to make it squeal.
Just stick me in a dark room with it, and I can cry.
You can also just search NT Paranormal on YouTube. That is true, but when you do that on Google, it says, "Did you mean paranormal?" So it's really weird. Everyone starts out rough. The more you research, the more you learn, the more you correct. Yeah, and that's what I hope. And that's why I try to encourage teams like yours, where you guys are just, you know, kind of starting out, and all the other teams out there. Not everybody's going to get it correct. And we're not 100% right all the time, too. I think a lot of people are looking at our group for a lot of the tech stuff, because that is definitely what we've nailed is, hey, these are new ways to do these experiments, different ways to, and I think a lot of people are looking at us that way because we're the only ones doing these experiments, and I like seeing that other groups are trying to replicate those experiments in the way that we do them. and that makes me very happy. But don't think that we are the end-all, be-all authorities on this subject, because we're not. No, but there is no such thing. So unless everybody works together and shares information and stops being territorial, we're never going to progress any of this research. So that's kind of the message out there is, definitely be skeptical, definitely question everything.
Don't be cynical.
But don't be cynical, and don't be a troll, because I will block your ass. And I have a microphone, and I have all the power.
Dun,
so,
dun.
everybody, have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Thanks everyone for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did and you would like to know more about NT Paranormal and our research, please visit us at www.ntparanormal.com or our Facebook page at facebook.com/ntparanormal. You can also check out our book, After Dark Paranormal Investigations, True Cases of the NT Paranormal Team on Amazon.com, or find our articles in Paranormal Hauntings Magazine. Before we go, we would also like to thank our supporters at Paranormal Hauntings Magazine, Paranormal Investigations Equipment, PIE, Ghost House Paranormal, the Granbury Paranormal Expo, and the Tyler Paranormal Conference. Until next time, everyone stay safe out there and stay open-minded.